Hello everyone, welcome back to the Plantation. In this week's episode, we're going to do a painting tutorial of that sugarcane windmill that we constructed in our last episode. So let's look at the finished product. I'm really excited to share it with you guys. So I think it came out really well. And I'm excited to show you the techniques I used to paint these aged sails and add colors to these patches that we painted on in the construction of this windmill. And then the stonework, I had some flocking on here for you guys. We can cover off in this video the painting of the interior. So just give me a good look of here. And then also the aged wood we did on the top here. So lots of different painting techniques covered in here and colors to get these effects. And that's all covered in this video. So if you guys like what we're doing in the Plantation, make sure you smash that like button and consider subscribing to the Plantation and get first-hand information on when I start these projects. So let's get down to the table and let's get painting. Okay, so we're going to start as I usually start with most of my builds, is painting everything with this multi-surface black craft paint. So I'm just showing you, I'm going to take it apart, so I still have not glued it all fully together. And I'm considering actually not gluing it together, so I can always access the inside if I need to, or take that the sails off it. So I'm just showing you, I'm just taking apart the whole windmill. I left it that way so I could paint all the pieces separately. So we're just showing you that I'm going to paint that all with the multi-surface black craft paint there. Same brush I always use. And so another reason why I use craft paint, and I kind of really didn't talk about it in previous videos, is definitely the cleanup is really good with this is water soluble paint. Easy cleanup, just some soap and water, and it's not toxic. It doesn't smell, so you don't need to go in the garage or use rattle cans or whatever. You can just do this in your basement and just prime it up with this black craft paint. So the next color, as I always use, my earth tones, real brown, full cart, multi-surface craft paint. And I get my bigger brush, so I use this for all my dry brushing. Now, some people have been following my videos. This might be repetitive, but this might be your first time in the Plantation, and this is a new technique for you. So I showed you a piece of paper towel because I always try to not have excessive amounts of paint on my brush. When you're dry brushing, you want a little bit on your brush. And I'm going to tap this entire piece. So I kind of showed you, I pointed at the innards of the piece, just to show that we're going to paint it all in the same color. So I'm going to do the whole thing in this real brown, and we are going to do some different color variations on those 4 colors I always use to essentially prime my piece, get to a certain state. So the next color I use is bark brown. Another multi-surface full cart craft paint. Same thing, just kind of get a little bit on the brush, tap it out on the old paper towel. Just going to give you a quick glance of what it looks like with the real brown just on it. So I just kind of did the innards, kind of did the inside of the cup. I didn't go all the way to the top of the cup, didn't really need to, you're not going to see it up there anyways. And then I just kind of did the base of it as well. And I do plan on doing the sails as well. So I don't know if you've noticed it, but right where the sails are, I kind of wasn't super careful. So I have a little bit of the brown is on the edges, and that's going to be the starting of the weathering of those sails. So then we're going to move on to this bark brown. And, I'm just going to briefly show you a little bit of the technique. But it's I've covered this in several videos, and just going to give you the quick look. We're just going to tap it on and make it a little bit lighter, adding all those earth tones to these stones. So then we're going to move on to the Pablo. So the multi-surface, it's kind of a orange paint, as you can see. It's good for highlighting. So I'm just showing you, I'm not going to add that to the shingles on the top, but I am going to add it to the rest of the piece. So we're going to cover that all in that orange, including the sails here. It'll just really highlight the wood textures that we put on there with all those dowels and popsicle sticks and matchsticks that we added on there. So again, same technique, just get some on the brush, tap it out on the paper towel. Again, this might be repetitive for some, but like I said, some people, this might be the first video they see. So I just want to keep going over this technique. So this is really kind of how I prime all my crafting pieces and my ships, really. I use these same colors. If you've watched all my painting tutorials, they all start this way. So I don't use, I like to call them rattle cans. I don't use, gray primers or airbrushing or anything like that. I just use a paintbrush, put these multi-surface craft paints on there and these layers, and you get to a good base color. And then you really can add things to it. Just showing I'm doing all the pieces in that color. So also the advantage of doing it this way is it's not a toxic smell, and you can do it in your own basement, and you don't have to go in the garage and do any of these crazy things. You don't have to have huge ventilation systems, and you can do this on the cheap, right? This is just craft paint. So I'm just showing you all the work I did with that Pablo, highlighting everything. Just so you get a good idea. So now we're going to move into camel. And it's kind of a khaki color, but in the earth tone colors. And really, we're going to work the stonework. So similar to the Tudor style building, we are going to work on that stone in this color. So we're going to add quite a bit of this camel to this stonework. And the same as the previous paint tutorial, we're going to find patches where we're going to make it a little bit lighter. So what I mean by that is just add more of the paint. You can see I've done that with some of the Pablo as well as the orange paints. So you have some orange areas and some beige areas, and you really want your stones to have a multicolored look. And I really stay away from using grays. I want to use just earth tones on my stonework. I really like this. I actually first trialed it out on the Tudor style building that I built, and I'm just sold. That's the colors to do. It looks really, really good, and it gets a really good stone effect. So I'm just showing you doing the whole thing. I plan on doing the innards as well, the stonework anyways. So then we're going to move into some, these are more model paints, so the Army Painter line. So we're going to go to a desert yellow. So similar to the previous paint tutorial, we're going to work all these different colors into the stoneworks to get all those lovely earth tones in there. I'm just showing you I added some of those colors also to the sails. So it's kind of sloppy adding it on there, and that was okay. I got a little bit onto the sails because we want to give them a weathered look. So I'm going back to my Army Painter dry brush, the larger one. I believe these come in, well, you can get them in larger sets, but the set I purchased, I think it's a 4-brush set, and there's 4 different sizes in it. I got my particular one from Amazon, but I love these brushes. They're fantastic for dry brushing. You can use them for your minis, you can use them for anything. They're fantastic. And, if you don't want to go to an expensive brush like that, they were not that expensive. But some people use makeup brushes, and they work really well as well. And you can get them fairly cheap. Get them at Walmart or dollar stores. You can get that stuff pretty cheap. These ones are a fewer bucks, but I do like the hairs. They're a little more coarser, and I feel like I can control them a little bit better. Anyway, so that's a little bit on the brushes there. But same technique, circular motions, added a little more of that desert yellow in certain areas, so it's brighter in certain areas. Again, just getting multicolors all over the place. So then we're going to go to this other color called Skeleton Bone. Another model paint. It's a Army Painter. And it's a lighter version, essentially, of the Desert Yellow. It's more of a muted, but we want more lighter colors and get these stones a little bit lighter. So circular motions, as you can see. Now, all those stones that I tumble them with rocks in a box, and that really gives it texture. That's all just insulation foam, and the construction of it is in the previous video, but just want to highlight all those textures on there. So this is necrotic. I'm probably saying this wrong. It's it's like a flesh color, kind of like a zombie color, but it's a green, but it's a dull muted green, which is perfect for adding a little green tone to your stone. I always feel that there's usually some plant life growing on it, or just some stuff growing on your stones, especially this happened to be in the jungle. So then we're going to the Mummy Robe. And Mummy Robe is kind of our final color for the stone. It's a really light color. And we're going to use the drag technique opposed to the circular technique. So I'm going to show you a little bit more of this technique. And this really just touches the surfaces. Some people could go to a white, and if you want to, the Mummy Robe's kind of is almost white, but it's got a little bit of a pinky brown color. And again, I just like adding all these different colors to it. And I've used these colors together, and I think it's to me, it feels a really good combination to achieve stone that I'm looking for. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of it, just dragging that on. Gives it a real good stone look. So that's our finished stone look. We are going to add some washes and stuff on there and make it look a little more rustic. So I'm just showing you this. Somebody suggested I go to a wet palette, and that's a really good idea. I've been using plates and stuff, but this wet palette, those are just kind of like a parchment paper, and there's a wet sponge in there. And it keeps your paints wet. All those paints that are in there, I just painted a whole set of minis with that, and I was able to keep the colors fresh. So I'm just going to Army Green there, just showing you that real quick. I put some on there. And we're going to address those little patches that I talked about. So remember in the previous video, if you watched the previous video, you saw that I used craft paint to paint those little squares over top onto the sails. Full intention of painting them afterwards. And so we're just going to add some colors. I'm just going to do some different colored patches on there. So just going back a little bit to that wet palette. It really is, once you put that lid on there, make sure you put your elastic band around it. And it keeps it for quite some time. I've had paints like since I've used it, I've had 3-4 weeks before I've even had to change it. Once the parchment paper gets full of, we have no more space, and obviously you have to throw it out. But it surely has come in handy in preserving some of this paint. I think I was wasting a little too much money on expensive, model paints, and just throwing away my paper plates or styrofoam plates in the garbage. In this way, I'm not throwing those in the trash all the time. I used to throw the parchment paper out, but it's far and few between. So that's just a little bit of a plug there for the wet palette. I figured I would try it out. Somebody suggested it, and I think I like it. I think I'll probably continue using wet palette. All right, so I just showed you. I went to decided to do like a lava orange. I'm gonna do a little orange on there. Or this is a red. Sorry, this is a red that I'm using on here. I think it's Pure Red by Army Painter. I kind of wanted to make a red one with some white stripes. I think that's what I'm going to do here. And essentially all I'm doing is just, as you can see, I'm not putting the paint on thick. I don't want it to look like it's, brand new on there. I want it to look a little bit weathered. The color's a little wear it off. So that's why I kind of have it on just barely on the brush, and it's it's not so bright on there. I don't want those patches to be extremely bright. So I think I believe that's a desert yellow. Unfortunately, I didn't show you guys all the colors on these, but I'm sure that's desert yellow I'm using. Just stuff that's on my palette already that I've been using. Just filling in those squares. Not extra overly careful, just kind of, just filling it in. And I don't care if it's is dull. I want it to look a little bit dull and weathered. But just going back over some of the areas that are really, really faded. All right, so that's kind of what we have so far. You got my hand in there. Oh, always put my hand in the camera view. Yeah, I'm just cleaning my brush, so it's not very exciting. And what I'm deciding here at this point, I wanted to add a little bit of white stripes to that red section that I put on there, so that pure red. I just add a little more character, right? I don't know if I think that's actually mummy robe that I just showed you, but anyways, it's a lighter color. You could use white, mummy robe, whatever, just a lighter color. Just freehand and some lines on there. Just wanted to have some unique patches on there. Just adds, like I said, adds character to the overall piece. Now we're going to add some more weathering and washes over that, and it's not going to be as bright. So we're going to move to a mild brown. So that little work table, I didn't glue that on in the interior yet. That you put the sugarcane on in to push into the crusher there. But I wanted to not paint it. I kind of wanted to like stain it with these washes. So they have a brown wash that I'm going to start with. Then I plan on putting a strong tone and a dark tone over top of that. And it gives it kind of a good stained look to the wood. Since we're actually using real wood here, this works well as a stain on it. Most of everything else was painted black, right? So we're going to add other colors to that, but this will work good with just washes. So I'm not trying to completely cover everything. Just give it a kind of a brief overall of that brown wash. So now moving on to a strong tone. And we're going to add a little weathering to the sails. So where I want to go is around the edges of those patches. So it got dirty around the edges, and then the edges of the sails. So anywhere, we're going to go all around all the edges with this strong tone. We are going to hit it again with also the dark tone as well. So I'm just going to kind of show you all the different areas. I do show you a little bit more of this because I do plan on putting a strong tone on other things here. So another good reason why we use these, the kind of sail technique I use, so it's kind of that cheap material, pre-cut material you buy at Walmart. That's essentially what those sails are made out of. And I added that craft paint onto it, so it kind of makes it like a canvas, to be honest. It's almost like working on a paint canvas, which is, in my wheelhouse. I like to paint on a canvas. So it takes really well with paints and washes added to it. So that's why I like to paint designs with it on my sails, and really for this particular project, weathering is it really takes well to the weathering. It won't curl or bend or anything like that. because we've put all that craft paint on it. All right, so let's move on. Moving on to going back to the strong tone again, but I'm just showing you that we're going to do that little workbench again. So kind of in between the steps here, I was letting that little workbench dry, and then I just so I didn't go from, usually my painting technique is I paint things as they're wet and just keep on painting. I did let this dry in between in between coats. So I went from that brown wash down to the strong tone wash, and then at the end I plan on putting the dark tone wash, and then that'll be a finished on there. All right, moving on to this Necromancer cloak. It's a gray, and I use it as well to age my wood on the Tudor style building. I'm going to use it to age that wood on the top. So I'm going to the small dry brush by Army Painter, and I'm going to hit all those wood areas I just pointed to. So we're going to start with a darker gray, and then we're going to kind of add some lighter grays over top of it, and that'll give us our aged look. So I'm kind of just tapping the center of the wood. So I'm not really covering the entire piece because I still want to have some of those brown highlights and have it a little darker at the top, and you still want a bit of browns in there, but you want to add the grays. So I'm just showing you I'm going to hit all the wooden areas, including the crushing tool with that gray. So then we're going to go to a uniform gray. That's just a lighter gray. And we're going to kind of start highlighting some of that older wood. So we're going to do the same thing, use that same dry brush. Now off the camera, I have my paper towel. I keep forgetting to mention to make sure you try to tap it on the paper towel. So you can see it's quite a bit lighter. Just being just really careful just to kind of highlight the center. I'll come back and spread it out a little bit more. But I just wanted to kind of be in the center of all these planks. And of course all the squares I added, all the trim. So all the wood areas that we added to the top of this piece, I am going to treat it the same way. And as well as the crushing tool and the wood that's down on the innards. I believe the only thing I didn't touch it with is that timber that the crushers are attached to. I kind of just left that more of a brown color. Just so it's offset, so it looks a little different than the crushing tool. I didn't want it to be all the same color in the innards, so it just gives it a little bit of a variation. And I figured that the timber might have seen less weathering as it's on the inside of the windmill opposed to these ones on the outside. I'm just showing it again, just hitting the crushing tool. So you can see I didn't cover all the wooden plank. So now I'm going into, that is a skeleton bone and a gray. Here, I'll just show you in a minute here. Anyways, that was skeleton bone and a uniform gray. And what I'm trying to do is just add some more highlights, but have a little bit of a beigey color to it. And I'm just hitting around the bottoms there. So this is a color I've never used before, actually. It's Morinfang Brown by Citadel. Again, I probably have messed that name up, but it's kind of a bright brown. I feel that I wanted to try it out on my shingles. So using that pull-up technique that I've done on my shingles before, just kind of trying to highlight some of it. And I'm going to hit all the shingles with this Morinfang Brown. And I do plan on highlighting it, and I'll show you in a minute, with a brighter orange. And eventually I go back with a gray. So I kind of have an orangey gray kind of shingle on top. I'm just showing you the areas that I'm hitting. I just want to show you the technique I'm using. I kind of had it off the camera. Just, you see I'm just pulling it up. And it just highlights those edges of the shingles. I kind of like this brown, and I probably will use it in the future in other things. It is actually a lot brighter than I thought it would be, but that's okay. Yeah, unfortunately I have it off the screen there. You can't really see, but there we go. Just wanted to make sure you could see how I did the shingle technique there. And again, if you've watched previous videos, you probably have already seen this before. This is more for people who haven't watched my channel. But it's always good to cover over those techniques again. So here we go. We're going to go to this, it's called Lava Orange. And it's a really bright orange by Army Painter. I actually use this for quite a different things. I use it for weathering leather on my miniatures, on their belts, and on the base of a gun. All sorts of stuff that I use it for. If you dry brush it or really lightly put it on or rub it in, you can really get some really good effects with it. But in this case, I'm using it just to highlight shingles. So I just want to offset that brown that I added on and add even a brighter color over top with this lava orange. So same technique, but I got a bigger brush. You can see I got a bigger brush there. All right, so that's the finished result. Just kind of tapping up a little bit more on there. And I do plan on adding a little bit of gray in the center of all those shingles, so you got an offsetted color. So then I'm going to go back to this army green. And I kind of wanted to address it's kind of like the walls, or the stucco that's up there. It's kind of like a mini house at the top that houses the mechanisms for the windmill sails. So I decided to do that in Army Painter green, and I will highlight it with a lighter green in a minute here. So I do have a small dry brush on there, but I do end up using a smaller fine brush. It's a little harder to get that in between the details that I have, those wooden planks. So the square is essentially on the side of that little house on the top. So I did have to go to a smaller brush to get in between those. So again, I'm just circling it in there. I'm not really putting a ton of paint on there. I don't want it to be like a solid green. I still want some of the brown showing on there. It just adds a little more to it. I didn't want to make it a bright green. Unfortunately, I'm off the screen again, but I think you know what I'm doing. I'm just doing all that stucco that we have on there. There we go. You can see again what I'm doing there. So then I decided that I want to add a little bit army green again to the woodwork. So just a little bit. Okay, so you're on here on the bottoms of those wooden planks. Just kind of wanted to give it even some more grime and maybe some growth, some plant life in there. Remember, this is a sugarcane windmill, so it would be in the jungle, mostly in Caribbean, South America. So definitely would be seeing a lot of plant life growth where it would be in those fields. So I kind of want to highlight that in the painting of this. So adding it to the weathering of this windmill. It's another good contrast on those grays. I like adding lots of colors, and that's, to me, things in real life have multiple colors. They're not usually solid colors unless they're painted that way. But things as they age and change, there's lots of things grow on them, and the sun hits them in different spots, and they just age in different ways. So I'm just showing you all the different green that I'm adding on I just kind of touch the bottoms. So this is scaly hide. And this is a lighter version of the army green. This is I use this in that Dutch bark ship build. This is the color combination I used. I like to put the army green down first, and then I go with the scaly hide, and it's a good way to highlight it. So I kind of started with this skinny brush, but I believe I move into the dry brush because it works better if you use a dry brush. And as I always use most of my stuff, is I go from the center, and then I kind of work it out. So it should be lighter in the center and darker on the edges. I know I had to use that fine brush to get into that other areas. So then I tap the wood planks as well, just adding more contrast, more color to all the wooden planks. Yeah, that skinnier brush is easier to get in between those wooden planks. I prefer to use a dry brush, but unfortunately, because of the tight space in there, I have to go to this square brush. I just really wanted to show you all the different areas that I hit with that scaly hide. I only show you a portion of it. I do go around and more and more. You don't want to add too much on there. You just wanted to have a little bit of highlights on things. You can see I've done it on some other boards. So this is a matte white. And why I went to the matte white is I want to highlight that crushing tool. So in the original picture that I showed in the construction of it, they're actually white in that painting, but it was a painting, right? So I wanted to add that aged wood to it color, but I want it to be distinct from the rest of it. So I decided to add a highlight of white. So I'm not covering it with white. I'm just adding a touch in the center. Again, I'm not going right to the edges because I want to keep those shaded colors in there. So just showing you all the different spots on there. Just painting the whole crushing tool, essentially. All right, so I showed you here. I added that gray into the shingles I mentioned. I just wanted to show you. I didn't actually show myself painting it, but I used that little same square brush that I was just using, and I just kind of tapped the center of not every shingle, but some of the shingles. So I'm kind of just showing you the components all painted. So the innards are painted and the outside. So now we're going to go to a dark tone. So now that we've added all these other colors on there, we're going to add some dark tone onto that. And we're going to go back to as I mentioned before, we're going to go back to that bench. So it's been drying as I've been painting everything else, and it's ready for its dark tone color. And once I get that on there and let it dry, that'll be the final color. It's a good contrasting wood. It comes out just great for it looks like a workbench. Okay, so we're going to a military green wash, and I wanted to add a little bit of, kind of a little bit of, again, more of that plant life onto the outer wall of the windmill. So on the base, I'm going to put that on there. I'm also going to put it under where that lip of stones are we put at the top. So I'm just showing you, just adding a little bit of green on there. I do end up adding a little bit of flocking on the bottom, but it's okay. Just add a little bit of that green on there too. It just adds more colors on there. And then go back to a dark tone. And I'm also going to hit those same areas. So I just want to point out I did add some of that military green wash to the base as well. I just kind of pointed that I did it, but I didn't really actually show it in the video. And so yeah, I'll go under anywhere the stones overlap other stones. I would think there'd be weathering, and so I hit certain areas with the dark tone. So I just wanted to show you that that's what I did to add more highlights to the stones at the end, And I kind of use this dark tone all over. I move it into the wood at the top. I use it on the shingles. I use it on the stones. I use it on the innards. I do it around the bottom of the crushing tool, on the stairs there. And then I also added it to those sails so I can continue on with my weathering of the sails. And just hit the edges of everything so with that dark tone. Don't add too much, just add a little bit. Because a little bit goes a long way with that dark tone. Okay, so now we're going to add a bit of some tufts and some flocking. So I'm just showing you that jungle tuft, this meadow flowers. That's a swampland tuft down there. Some green grass flocking, and this it's called steppe grass. I like to mix those two together. They make a good combination. So to put the tufts on, I go hardcore. I glue them down with super glue, this Gorilla Glue. Make sure they don't go anywhere. And then for the flocking, I'll use the white tacky glue. So I'm just telling you, I'm mixing those two together. I kind of mentioned that I like to have those two combinations together. So I've already applied it. I'm just going to show you. I can see I just kind of went around the entire edges with that flocking. Added a little bit on the stairs. And then added those just random tufts in there. So like some plant life growing. Remember this windmill would be growing in the jungle. So I just wanted to add that little extra detail on there. So at this point, I did glue that work table in. Now that I finished painting the interior, I can finally glue it in, and now it's let's just say it's a permanent resident there. So we're pretty well done. It's completed. So let's take a look at the final product. We're going to do a little, we're back at the port again. This is the English 6th-rate frigate coming into the French port. Supported by some native forces, and they're trying to capture this plantation and port. So you can see just going to go over, there's the windmill over on the far side here on the island. And we got native forces coming in here to raid that plantation. Through some ancient ruins, so old ancient ruins here. And confronting the French forces here. So we're heading over to that windmill in a sec. Just taking a quick pause through the battlefield, just taking a look. Alright, we'll get there in a sec. I just wanted to show you guys some of the other terrain that I built as well. I built all that jungle terrain. Unfortunately, I don't have videos for those, but maybe I will do some in the future. Alright, so if you guys like this video, make sure you smash that like button and consider subscribing to the Plunder Den to get first-hand information when I complete these projects. Alright, so let's just take one more look at this windmill. And she's completed. So thanks so much everybody for watching, and I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.